Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to in-depth news update on one of the most explosive geopolitical confrontations of early 2026. I'm your host, bringing you the full story behind President Donald Trump's bold mockery of Vladimir Putin following the dramatic U.S.-led seizure of the sanctions-evading oil tanker Marinera in the frigid waters of the North Atlantic. What started as a routine naval operation has spiraled into a firestorm of Kremlin rage, retaliatory missile strikes on Ukraine, and revelations about shadowy networks funding global conflicts. Picture this: Russian warships allegedly turning tail and fleeing as American forces close in, Trump laughing it off on live TV, and Moscow responding with hypersonic fury just hours later. Over the next 10 minutes, we'll unpack every angle. The operation itself, the tanker's dirty ties to Putin's inner circle, the Kremlin's unfiltered outrage, the deadly aftermath in Ukraine, international reactions, and what this means for the world moving forward. Buckle up. This is breaking news at its most intense, drawn from verified reports across global media outlets. Let's dive straight into the heart of the incident that lit this powder keg. It was January 7, 2026, around midday in the North Atlantic, approximately 190 nautical miles southwest of Iceland's rugged southern coast. The target, the Marinera, a hulking oil tanker previously known as Bella 1, flagged under a murky registry and crewed by a mix of nationalities shrouded in secrecy. U.S. forces, operating under the banner of enforcing international sanctions, launched a precision boarding operation with critical support from British military assets. No shots were fired, no dramatic Hollywood-style chase ensued, at least not publicly, but the outcome was decisive. American personnel, backed by helicopters and fast-response vessels, took full command of the ship, securing its bridge, engine room, and cargo holds without resistance from the crew. By evening, offloading of its illicit cargo had begun, with the tanker escorted to a secure location for further inspection. President Trump, speaking exclusively to Fox News later that day on January 8, didn't mince words. The Russian destroyer and submarine were both there, but they left very quickly when we arrived, he said with his signature grin. We took command of the vessel, and the oil is currently being offloaded. It's a big win for America. His comments, delivered with unmistakable relish, instantly went viral, framing the event as a humiliating retreat for Russia's vaunted navy. To understand why this tanker mattered so much, we need to zoom out to the broader context of Russia's shadow fleet, a ghost armada of aging, often uninsured vessels crisscrossing the oceans to smuggle sanctioned oil. Post-2022 Ukraine invasion, Western allies like the G7 imposed strict price caps on Russian crude, anything over $60 per barrel triggering penalties. Moscow's workaround? A clandestine network of over 600 tankers, many renamed, reflagged, and crewed by proxies from Iran, Venezuela, and beyond. The Marinera fits this profile perfectly. A 2000s-built supertanker with a capacity for millions of barrels, recently transferred to the obscure Russian firm Beaverist Marine, which investigators linked directly to Kremlin cronies. Its cargo? An estimated 7.3 million barrels of Iranian heavy crude, blended with Venezuelan grades to obscure origins, destined for black market buyers in Asia and the Middle East. Proceeds, analysts estimate, funneled not just into Putin's war chest but to terror groups like Hezbollah, which uses such funds for rockets and training camps. The U.S. operation wasn't solo. The United Kingdom played a pivotal role, deploying RAF Poseidon surveillance aircraft to track the vessel for days and the Royal Fleet Auxiliary Tide Force for logistical support. Crucially, no British boots hit the deck. Washington handled the boarding to avoid NATO entanglements, but Defense Secretary John Healey was unequivocal in his praise. This is a direct strike against the Russian-Iranian axis of sanctions evasion, he declared in Parliament. It disrupts funding for aggression from Ukraine to the Middle East. The tanker now sits impounded, its 30-person crew detained for questioning, as forensic teams trace ownership layers that snake through Cyprus shell companies and Dubai banks. Now, the connections that make this personal for Putin. Open-source intelligence and financial sleuths have peeled back the layers, revealing ties to two notorious figures in Moscow's orbit. First, Viktor Baransky, a one-time Ukrainian politician from the pro-Russian camp, who flipped from Kiev's halls to exile after 2014's Maidan Revolution. Baransky's name surfaces in shipping manifests for Beaverist Marine, with allegations he facilitated crew hires and port calls in occupied Crimea. Then there's Ilan Shor, the Moldovan-Israeli oligarch and fugitive, wanted by Chisinau for a $1 billion bank fraud that nearly toppled the government. Shor, operating from Moscow under Putin's protection, is accused of bankrolling anti-EU protests in Moldova and hybrid ops to destabilize NATO's eastern flank. Media reports, including from EA Daily, confirm Shor's fingerprints on the Marinera's recent voyages, using it to launder oil payments through his network of crypto exchanges and Hezbollah systems. This isn't just a tanker, it's an artery in Putin's global sanctions-busting machine, says a U.S. Treasury official anonymously. Ukrainian open-source group Inform Napalm went further, mapping the vessel's AIS tracker's dark pool periods, when it went radio silent, to rendezvous with Iranian tankers off Oman. The seizure, they argue, exposed Russia's naval impotence. Despite forward deployments in the Atlantic, not a single warship intervened effectively. Trump pounced on this, tweeting post-interview, "Putin's ships run faster than his promises. America first means enforcing the law on the high seas." The mockery stung because it's rooted in reality. Russia's Northern Fleet, strained by Ukraine ops, couldn't risk escalation near Iceland, a NATO neighbor. The Kremlin's response was swift, savage, and scorching. Hours after Trump's Fox appearance on January 8, Dmitry Medvedev, deputy head of Russia's Security Council and a Putin loyalist with a penchant for nuclear saber-rattling, unleashed a tirade on Telegram. "Trump is a madman seizing civilian vessels like a pirate," he fumed. International relations have devolved into outright bedlam, lawless thugs in Washington dictating to sovereign powers. Medvedev linked the tanker grab directly to escalatory provocations, hinting at reprisals without specifics. But words weren't enough. Action followed. Late that evening, Russia launched one of its largest barrages yet on Ukraine, headlining the debut combat use of the nuclear-capable Oreshnik intermediate-range ballistic missile. The target, Bilch-Velitskoye-Uhersk, Europe's largest underground gas storage facility near Lviv, just 40 miles from Poland's border. Oreshnik, a hypersonic wonder weapon touted by Moscow as unstoppable, streaked across the sky in minutes, slamming into infrastructure with precision. Accompanied by Kinzhal missiles, Shahid drones, and cruise missiles, the volley killed at least 4 civilians in Kiev, including a mother and child in a residential strike, and plunged over 500,000 households into darkness. Ukrainian air defenses, bolstered by Western systems, downed 80%, but the message was clear: retaliation. CBS News confirmed Russia's claim of Oreshnik deployment, noting its 3,000 kilometers range puts all of Europe in play. Medvedev later boasted, "We respond where it hurts. Let NATO ponder that." Ukrainian voices framed it as desperate theater. Inform Napalm's analysts pored over strike footage, concluding the Oreshniks carried dummy warheads, demonstrative fire, to save face after the naval humiliation. Russia is powerless to protect these vessels, their report stated. So it launches missiles without payloads to project strength. Prominent journalist Denis Kazansky echoed this on social media. Putin couldn't defend his tanker, so he bombed civilians to ease the humiliation. Pathetic. Casualties mounted. Lviv's gas facility, vital for Europe's energy buffer, suffered craters but no breach, averting a humanitarian catastrophe. Kyiv's streets filled with debris, emergency crews racing against blackouts. President Zelensky condemned it as terrorism timed for Trump's taunts, vowing resilience. Globally, reactions split along fault lines. The UK cheered the seizure as a sanctions triumph, with Healey briefing NATO allies. European leaders urged restraint, Germany warning of energy ripple effects from the gas strike. Iran denied oil links, calling it Yankee piracy. China stayed mum, but state media hinted at WTO challenges. In Washington, Trump's MAGA base erupted in applause, seeing it as peacetime strength ahead of his 2025 inauguration promises. Critics, including some Democrats, fretted over escalation risks. As of January 11, 2026, the Marinera's oil continues offloading, Russian lawsuits loom at the UN, and Oreshnik threats hang over Europe. Tensions simmer. Will this spark wider conflict or force Putin to the table? Trump's America First flex has redrawn high seas rules, but at what cost? What do you think, viewers? Is this a decisive U.S. victory exposing Russian weakness, or a dangerous poke at the bear setting up a trap? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Smash that like button if this breakdown helped. Hit subscribe and ring the bell for daily geopolitical updates. Thanks for joining us. Stay informed, stay safe. Good night.